The coronavirus is the biggest threat this country has faced for decades. The time has now come for us all to do more. And therefore, I urge you, at this moment of national emergency, to stay at home, protect our NHS, and save lives.
It's April 2020 and the world has changed. The coronavirus pandemic means the UK is in lockdown. University campuses are closed, students are back at home, and lectures, tutorials and exams have all been moved online. For final year students, it's brought their time at university to an abrupt end. But how are our 6 finalists from the class of 2020 coping? Producer Jeremy has been finding out.
I was kind of one of those people who initially thought that, we like to be a bit dramatic, and I thought that we were sort of blowing it out of proportion. And then I think in about a week, I went from saying that to, oh, no, this is a worldwide pandemic. It was sort of, it was weird to begin with, because I think there was a lot of just like rumour and speculation. I still kind of think that's the case now. We worked out relatively quickly, I think, that lots of different units were getting shut, and it was kind of like only a matter of time until the same thing happened with us. So I ended up, I finished uni on the last day of teaching, and our uni had finished about a week and a half early, and then I went back home so I could just sort of be with my family. I haven't spent extended periods of time at home for quite a long time, so it's actually quite nice. I'm not saying that it's perfect. We had first couple of days, it was a bit rocky. I think we were sort of getting used to each other. But actually, we've been, it's been really nice. I've been doing lots of cooking, which I like. I'm not a very good cook, so I've been trying to improve. And it's been quite nice spending time together. So yeah, actually, that side of things hasn't been too bad. I do wake up occasionally and just think, oh God, another day. It's the same, but beyond, I think everybody's in the same boat.
When we last spoke to Robert, he'd just received a graduate job offer from Vodafone and was expecting to join them in the autumn.
I'm hoping, and maybe this will be famous last words, that it's not going to affect it hugely. So we had an email from Vodafone basically saying it's all going ahead as normal. I think that was caveated with it is currently going ahead as normal. However, I think the fact that they sent the email made me feel fairly confident with it. I know people who have sort of lost internships and lost graduate jobs have sort of already found out. So I would have thought if they were going to do it, they would just tell us now and they could get planning. Yeah. And then about a week ago, I think it was a week ago today, I got a sort of package through, and it was a sort of Vodafone branded care package, which was really nice. So I got a water bottle, a phone charger, which admittedly at the moment is not very helpful. I'm always pretty close to a charging station. Oh, and a notepad. But I think I've even got. I tell you what, I can even show it off. So I've got it there. So it was really nice. And again, I feel that a weird thing to do if you're about to email someone saying, by the way, Robert, no, we're not going to go ahead with it. Or maybe they're just trying to butter me up before they do that, and I'll have something to think about. There was talk about this sort of induction week, and I think that was at their sort of headquarters in Newbury, I think, which sounded quite a fun week. I'd be surprised if that went ahead, because I'd have thought it's going to be a big group of 100 people, and you could easily get away with not doing it. You could make it all online, you could postpone it to a later date. It's a kind of unnecessary risk. But I'm sort of expecting that come mid-September, it will hopefully be good enough to begin to go into work.
Lancaster University student Elena Manole has returned home to Romania.
Our university started to bring some new measures before the UK sort of lockdown. So we were not allowed to go to our last week of university. And I thought that was good. I thought that was helpful because I didn't really go to any public places at all. And even at university, I just went to the library to just get whatever I needed to stack up. And I just remember it was disinfectants everywhere, but people were very scared. They were queuing for it. And I decided to come home because we were told that we won't be needed to be at university physically. So that's when I knew that I could travel home, because I didn't know how much I would need to be there. It was quite sad to leave everything there, also not really knowing again what's going to happen.
When she got back to Romania, Elena had to self-isolate for a fortnight.
When I came back home for 2 weeks, police was checking on me. So actually my parents isolated me completely. They were bringing me food at the door. I was struggling quite a bit at the beginning, just being alone, seeing the same four walls and just having no place to, I don't know, breathe in fresh air. And I think this period is also about adapting, and you always have to adapt no matter what. And I started to see the bright side lately, and just trying to work on myself, because that's what I will need, and that's what a company will need in the future.
Before the pandemic struck, Elena had had job offers from the BBC in London and IBM in Romania, but isn't sure whether either will still be able to employ her.
I didn't hear anything from them for around 2 weeks after the university closed. Then I emailed them. So that happened 1 week ago. And I got an email back from IBM from the graduate job that I had for IBM in Romania. And they said that they're constantly measuring the implications of the pandemic, and they said that their main focus is to see what current employees are handling it and how they can deliver as much as before. But they said that once they have an update, they will send me. So I didn't really get much from the email, as in what is going to happen to my application. From BBC, I actually got to sign the contract. I didn't really get congratulations, you can now work with us or something like that, just to be 100% sure. But I'm looking forward to moving in London. I've been searching for accommodation, even though it's a bit early now. But I'm quite excited to start a new chapter.
University College London finalist Ben Glass is now at his parents' home in Cambridge, but began lockdown with his friends in London.
All my flatmates decided to stay in the flat. We had a lot of fun because we were pretty sure that something would happen to exams, which we have been really stressed about, working quite hard for. And then it's like, I don't know, just limbo. That's the perfect word to describe it. Like completely had no idea what was going to happen. So we had 2 weeks actually of while UCL had to get themselves together, and then they started drip feeding communications. And then a week or two after that, we got the really good news that this no detriment policy would be implemented. And so since then, I've actually been able to focus, do some of the work that I'm meant to be doing. But because of the situation with my grades, I don't need to do too much work. So I haven't.
Fair enough.
And then I've also been looking at other ways that I'm going to make myself more competitive in the job market. And what I'm like interested in looking at is like data science. I've been like talking a lot about Excel and PowerPoint with my sister and my dad. It's a very sad table time conversation, I realise.
Like students right across the UK, Ben is still getting used to the lockdown restrictions.
Like I live with really great flatmates. We've always been like supportive of each other. So that side of things has been easy. Haven't been able to see my girlfriend, which is like sucks, obviously, but that's, I guess, like that's a similar situation to lots of university students. So
where's she locked down?
In London, but like with her family. Yeah.
On a more positive note, Teach First have reassured Ben that he will be able to start his teacher training in the summer.
And there was a video that everyone was asked to watch, and that basically said Summer Institute, which is our training, is going to be fully online, and they're like confident it can be exactly the same sort of quality and that you'll be equally well prepared. That won't be the case, but I still think it's going to be fine. I'm still anxious about meeting people because I'm relocating, like I'm going up north from Cambridge or London. And then also, it's just going to be so different being in a classroom full of real cheeky kids. But I do think there is some positive to it. For example, they're going to teach us, teaching through digitally is just like a booming like sector of the education industry right now. So like getting some experience of that, or even just like receiving the experience, is like really interesting and relevant. So that's what I'm quite looking forward to. I might arrive in schools with kids that haven't been taught for like half a year, who have like missed on all the content, forgotten how to behave, and teachers who haven't had the chance to organize the school to like prepare it for new kids. So I think it will be extra challenging when we go in, especially with like probably lower quality training. But like, that's why I signed up. So
University of York student Chantelle Jeffers-Bobo is in lockdown at home in London.
Yeah, so with the whole COVID-19 situation, I was quite lucky because York finished their term on the 15th of March. So a lot of other unis still had term to go, whereas we were done, and also we had strikes. So we pretty much were done 4 weeks before everything started. We just had to work on our own, and we could keep in contact, but it was very limited. And we got the email on the last day of term saying uni's been moved online. And as final years, we're like, oh, we don't care, it's fine, because for us, we do humanities. It's all essay-based, we read anyway, or have left as a diss and some essays. Didn't really think anything of it. And then lockdown happened a few days after I got home, and I was like, I definitely am not going back to York now, because we assumed as final years, we're like, oh, we'll go back together, we'll live together, it's fine, we'll study together, even if we can't go to uni. And we then got told, you're not coming back. You have to essentially stay where you are. We've been told for 3-4 years, the end of it is what you want. Like, you're aiming for this last term. And we've had friends in a year above that are saying, oh, the final term is the best, even though the beginning of it is absolutely horrific, because obviously deadlines. And we now have to face that we don't get our final term.
Chantelle had been hoping that she could go travelling after graduation.
Well, it was going to be travelling. But I'm also immunocompromised, so I can't even leave the house at the moment, and going travelling, I think, anywhere in the next 6 months would not be wise, even if things do calm down. So I won't be going anywhere. I hate it. I hate being immunocompromised, and it's not in a sense where I'm ungrateful, but you get very jealous when I look out the window, and I live in London, so it's even worse because I can look out the window and I can see like a little cute old couple that we know very well walk down the street, and I'm like, if I can go outside, why can't I? I exercise at home. If I want to go on a run, I have to run up and down my hallway. It is quite difficult, and because I also have ADHD, and all these fun issues I have, I need to go outside to get rid of it to help my mental health, and I can't really do that, so we brought a diffuser and put like nice smelling things in, so I kind of have the smell of being outside, but also a way for me to control my anxiety.
Because of the current situation, Chantelle has decided not to continue looking for a graduate job.
Not just because of career-wise and grad schemes, but for my mental health, and to look after my mental health and take a recharge, because surgery is horrible. It's also fun, it's also crazy, but I need time away from all the pressures of trying to study, trying to be with friends, trying to do all these things. And many people can balance it, but I personally realised about 6 months too late, it's not for me.
For business student Felix Kabutey Jr., the University of Liverpool's shutdown happened at breakneck speed.
The university, I think they managed it really well, but it was a shock to other students. I think I was with some of my friends and we got an email from the uni on a Saturday announcing that the uni would be closed from Monday, which was literally no time to even process it. So without knowing, unknowing to us, the last time we were effectively going to be attending lectures, attending seminars, having group discussions, having group meetings, going to the library was that Friday, and we didn't even know. So as soon as Monday hit, the university was closed. Face-to-face teaching was cancelled essentially. University, for the first time in my whole 4 years, looked literally like a ghost town. There was no one there.
Felix had to decide whether to stay in Liverpool or return home to Manchester.
At first, I stayed in Liverpool for a week or two. And then just as the situation was becoming more severe and the lockdown began to be imposed, I thought, yeah, it's probably best for me to come back, be with family at a time like this. So yeah, it's a bit of an adjustment, but I've got myself into a routine. It helps because my dad's working from home as well. So when he's sat at the desk doing his work, I'm alongside him. And then with graduation, as it stands, we won't be having a summer graduation. The only thing the university have said is that there will be alternative arrangements made later on in the year. And with that in itself, I know there's a lot of people that aren't happy about that. It's quite disappointing. I know for me personally, graduation was something I was really looking forward to in terms of being able to have that as a milestone and be able to kind of close my chapter on university and then move on with the rest of my career.
When we last spoke to Felix in February, he'd just received a graduate job offer from Enterprise Rent-A-Car. But since then, he's also applied for a place on the FDM Group's graduate programme.
I had my assessment centre with FDM at their training centre in Leeds, and I'm pleased to say it went well. It went really well, and they offered me a position on their business programme. So having two offers, I mean, first of all, I'm extremely, extremely grateful to be in the position I am. So what I did was I emailed both companies. I firstly emailed Enterprise Rent-A-Car because I gained my position with them first, and I thought it would be the best thing to do. But unfortunately, I didn't receive a response from them. So I contacted my main recruiter. I also contacted someone I knew she worked with. I sent them a few emails, and unfortunately, I didn't hear back from them. I obviously appreciate this is a very difficult time, so I was very understanding. But as time has gone on, it has changed my perspective and also pushed me more towards FDM, because on the other hand, I had a phone call with my FDM recruiter, and she was very reassuring. Told me there's nothing to worry about. Even went into detail of explaining how FDM's business model actually thrives in difficult times like this.
So it looks like Phoenix won't be joining the motor industry after all. For University of Birmingham engineer Louise MacIver-Jones, the lockdown has made it hard to complete the practical work for her degree.
So we were meant to do a bench inspection where you kind of demonstrate your final year project, like your code or any like hardware you'd developed. So instead of doing, obviously we couldn't go in and do that, so they asked us to do a video presentation. And a lot of my friends were struggling because, their projects had gone from being able to have all this lab time to suddenly all they've got is their home like laptop or PC. So I just emailed our head of year and kind of said, is there any way we can have any extensions or anything? And he was really kind. He was kind of like, how long do you need? Let me know in a couple of days, speak to all the students, see how you're all feeling. So they gave us a 2-week extension on everything. We asked all of our modules, all of our coursework, so they just gave us a 2-week extension.
So her degree is back on track, but she's worried that the coronavirus crisis may affect her graduate job with engineering firm WSP.
So we've heard very little actually from WSP, which is a bit concerning. They've kind of done, I don't think they've kind of got a Facebook group page and they haven't said any posts on that. But previously we kind of were always like, oh, like 6 months to your start date, when you join us in September, And we recently got an email, I think at the end of March. It didn't really address coronavirus. It was about setting up a new kind of digital platform that we'll be using. And it was kind of like, oh, we look forward to you joining us later in the year. So it feels like that might be postponed because they've always been so adamant on September. I think that'll now probably be, maybe if they've even just moved it back a couple of weeks to October, I just can't see it starting straight away. So I've been following my boss's boss on LinkedIn, and she's been posting quite a lot about how much work they've still got doing. It's made me realise I definitely chose the right graduate scheme, because the other one was based in construction. So I think if I had gone with that one, I would have been a lot more worried about my place.
Unfortunately, Louise's friends aren't in such a good position.
So a lot of them were kind of waiting till the end of March, April time to kind of start applying. I think they're all now massively regretting that, because a lot of companies aren't hiring. Like I know Atkins have got a hiring freeze on, and like while graduates are obviously, with cheap work basically, I don't think a lot of companies are going to be taking on maybe as many as they'd have liked, because they don't know what situation they'll be in.